Hi, folks. Hope you're all doing well on this fine Monday, or I should say, it's pretty fine here in the Netherlands. It's kind of sunny right now, a little rainy, a little of this, a little of that. It's typical Dutch weather. But forget all that. Let's go on to our daily look at the news about what BP has been doing about the oil disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. So today's the May 17th. Let's look at a little bit of the news from yesterday, maybe even a little bit from today. I just stopped watching some of the news. I'm going to start my little timer here. Now, much of the news yesterday was like 2 or 3 of the main articles were literally articles from the day before that were dated for yesterday, but that were literally verbatim from the article from the day before or the day after. But there's one I want to go into quickly, and that was the statement made by BP's CEO, Tony Hayward, to a British, the television, or The Guardian, where he stated, quote, "The Gulf of Mexico is a very big ocean, and the amount of volume of oil and dispersant we are putting into it is tiny in relation to the total water volume." Now, when I hear that statement, to me it means he's trying to minimize the damage that his platform is causing, his company is causing. Or basically, it's like he's slapping me in the face and going, "You're an idiot and I can tell you anything I want to tell you." Well, the BP spokesman almost immediately came back out and stated, "Tony was in no way minimizing the scale or size of the incident. This is a serious spill, and we are tackling it with the utmost seriousness and urgency." Now, I'm not debating whether there are many, many BP employees who are as concerned about this as you are, as I am. There really are. One of the BP employees that is not as concerned about it is Tony Hayward. He wouldn't have said such a stupid, ignoramus statement. I mean, how... Okay, so a little while after the statement, there was a joint letter sent to Tony Hayward by the U.S. Interior Secretary Ken Salazar and Secretary of Homeland Security Janet Napolitano, where they did 2 things in the letter. First, they wanted to ask Mr. Hayward exactly what he meant by "we will cover all expenses to do with this." What was the word for it? Legitimate claims. He'll match any legitimate. He'll pay any legitimate claim. And so, our fine people in the government, Mr. Napolitano and Mr. Salazar, sent a letter and said, "Well, does this mean you're going to exceed the $75 million cap that was set by the federal law because those guys had been paid off, basically, by BP, so they could set this stupid cap of $75 million. But then the letter went on to say that they praised BP's response to the oil spill so far, saying the company has undertaken to promptly pay the damages associated with the Deepwater Horizon events. The lip service from both the U.S. government and from BP is sickening. Now let's move on here, talking about sickening. I'm going to get to the best part last, I think. There's air quality testing, the agency says that testing is okay on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and that air pollutants monitored along the Mississippi Gulf Coast are below normal for the area, according to a news release from the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, monitoring the situation along with the U.S. EPA. Now, the EPA are the people, of course, who have also said that the dispersants being used can be used to get rid of all the oil and stuff like that, without knowing what the long-term effects are going to be. So, my friends, if you smell a if you're in Mississippi, you smell a WD-40 sort of smell, if your eyes start to burn, and if vomiting sets in, have no fear. The air quality is indeed a better quality than normal. So it doesn't have anything to do with anything. Don't worry about it. Okay, then it goes on to beach cleanup success. The volunteerism moves into a new phase. Volunteers, there's over 5,000 volunteers, or close to 5,000 volunteers, and I applaud each and every one of you. There shouldn't have to be any volunteers in this. BP should be paying for every second someone works to get this cleaned up. There shouldn't be any volunteers. I know it sounds great. I'm going to go down and volunteer. BP should be paying for this. Okay, let's see. Okay, what constitutes a legitimate oil claim against BP? No one really knows. Tony Hayward, as of now at least, today, has not answered that letter sent by Napolitano and by Salazar. So if you run a family business, small charter service, company that cleans hotel rooms, the oil spill may have completely gutted your business. We don't really know. Okay, let's move on to the success. The tube drawing oil away from the Gulf. Now, at 1 p.m. yesterday, a spokesman said it is sucking most of the oil from the leak. So here we go. BP is like, yeah, whoa, it's getting closer to being fixed. Then later on, let me see what time that was. I think that was at about 6 p.m. So 4 hours later, it's collecting some of it, but it was too early to measure how much crude was being collected. But it's of course not too early to say that it's only 5,000 barrels that are being spewed out. But it's too early to figure out how much is coming out of a hose that big. Okay, forget that. Now, today, they say that it's sucking 1,000 barrels a day through that little tube that was so successful yesterday. So 1,000 barrels a day is coming through that tube. I even question that. This from the company, and the reason I question it, this from the company that said that the pipe on the bottom of the ocean, of the Gulf, was spewing out 5,000, while there are now a number of independent experts that say it is at least 50,000 barrels to 90,000 barrels of oil a day. So if that's the case, and BP, say we'll go to the lowest estimate, 50,000 barrels. BP says 5,000 barrels. So they're saying they're sucking up 20% of the spill as it's coming out, I should say. But according to experts, and if BP is right and they're saying it's 1,000 barrels being dumped into the boat, then they are basically getting 2% of what's coming out of the bottom of the ocean. So quite frankly, this tube, as much as I want it to work, as much as I want this over, this tube is an absolute failure. And I hope BP is continuing to try to find a way to stop this. I don't think they're any closer personally, but hey, that's me. I'm just a pessimistic, grumpy guy. So, talk to you guys tomorrow.